There is something that happens in the human body, something that no amount of intellectual training can fully replicate. It happens before thought. It happens before language. It happens before the mind has had even a single moment to organize what it perceives into something it can name. And yet, if you have ever stood at the threshold of a significant moment in your life, before a difficult conversation, before an accident you narrowly avoided, before receiving news that changed everything, you know exactly what I am pointing toward. The body already knew. The body had already prepared itself. The chest had already tightened. The breath had already shifted. The stomach had already moved. In that quiet, unmistakable way that signals something is approaching, something is already in motion, long before the thinking mind had any idea at all. I want you to sit with that for a moment, because what I am describing is not a poetic metaphor. It is not spiritual fantasy. It is something that every single person has experienced. We have all had that moment where we felt something before we understood it, where the body moved us before the mind approved the movement. And what I want to explore with you today is not whether this happens. We already know it happens. The question is why, and more importantly, what it means for the way we choose to live. Let us begin with the most fundamental truth about the human organism, one that our modern world tends to forget. Because of how loudly we celebrate the intellect, the body is not a vehicle for the mind. The body is not a machine that carries your brain from one meeting to the next. The body is, in itself, an extraordinary intelligence, and this intelligence did not develop over a few decades. It did not develop over a few centuries. It developed over millions of years of life, navigating threatening environments, unpredictable circumstances, and constant uncertainty. Long before human beings had the capacity to sit down and think through a problem step by step, the body was already solving problems. Long before we could articulate our situation in language, the body was reading the situation and responding accordingly. The nervous system, which we so often reduce to a collection of biological functions, is in reality one of the most sophisticated sensing instruments that exists in the known world. It is constantly scanning. It is constantly receiving information, not just through the 5 senses we were taught about in school, but through mechanisms far more subtle, through micro-expressions on the faces of others, through the invisible chemistry of environments we enter, through the electromagnetic fields generated by our own hearts and the hearts of those around us. Scientists have spent decades trying to understand the intelligence of the gut, only to discover that there are more neurons in the gastrointestinal tract than in the spinal cord. The body has an entire nervous system operating independently, making decisions, registering threat and safety, sending messages upward to the brain. When people say they have a gut feeling, they are being more accurate than perhaps even they realize. Now here is what I want you to consider. If the body is constantly receiving all of this information, if it is constantly scanning the environment with instruments far more precise than conscious thought, what happens to all of that data? Where does it go? For most people, and this is perhaps one of the great tragedies of how we learn to live, most of that information is simply ignored, not because it was not received, not because the body failed to register it, but because somewhere along the way, we learned to distrust our bodies. We learned that the mind is reliable and the body is not. We learned that feelings are soft, irrational, imprecise, and that the only trustworthy information is what can be explained, analyzed, and justified with words. And so we walk through our lives in a state of profound disconnection from one of the most extraordinary sources of intelligence available to us. Think about the last time you entered a room and felt immediately uncomfortable, though nothing visible was wrong. Think about the last time you met someone and felt, in your very first exchange, a quality of unease that you could not justify, or the opposite, that inexplicable sense of familiarity and safety with someone you had only just met. These are not accidents. These are not tricks of the imagination. Your body was doing what it has always done, reading the room, reading the person, reading the energy of the situation with instruments that your conscious mind cannot access and cannot replicate. The question was never whether your body could perceive these things. The question has always been whether you trusted what it was telling you. And this is where the practice of inner cultivation becomes essential, because here is what I have observed, both in my own journey and in those of countless people who have committed themselves to genuine inner development. The signals were always there. The feeling was always present. What was missing was not the body's intelligence. What was missing was the stillness required to receive it. When the inner world is constantly noisy, when the mind is perpetually occupied with its plans, its anxieties, its memories, its judgments, the quieter signals of the body simply cannot be heard above the noise. It is like trying to hear a whisper in the middle of a thunderstorm. The whisper is real. The whisper carries something important, but the storm makes it impossible to receive it clearly. This is why every genuine tradition of inner development, without exception, has placed extraordinary emphasis on stillness, not as an end in itself, but as the prerequisite for clear perception. When you sit in true stillness, not the pretense of stillness where the body is quiet but the mind races, but genuine stillness where the agitation of thought has settled and the awareness has become clear, you begin to discover something remarkable. You begin to realize that your body has been speaking to you all along, that it has been offering you information at every single moment, that every tension you held without acknowledging, every uncomfortable feeling you pushed past, every quiet signal you overrode, because the thinking mind had already decided on a course of action. All of it was communication. All of it was the body doing its work, faithfully, honestly, continuously. Now let us go a little deeper, because there is another dimension to this that I think is important for us to understand. When we speak about the body knowing before the mind does, we are pointing towards something that has profound implications for how we understand intelligence itself. In our current culture, intelligence is almost entirely associated with the rational, analytical, verbal mind. A person is considered intelligent if they can reason quickly, if they can learn academic material, if they can solve abstract problems. But this is a very narrow and very recent definition of a word that points to something much vaster. True intelligence is the capacity to navigate reality accurately, and the body, in its ancient and wordless way, is extraordinarily accurate. There is a concept in the world of high performance, in athletics, in martial arts, in emergency medicine, in combat, that practitioners refer to as somatic awareness. It is the cultivated capacity to receive and trust the body's intelligence in real time, without filtering it through the slow machinery of conscious deliberation. A seasoned practitioner in any of these fields will tell you that the moment you stop trusting your body and start consciously thinking your way through a situation that requires instantaneous response, you have already lost. The body is faster. The body is more comprehensive. The body has access to information that the analytical mind will take several seconds to piece together. And in those several seconds, the situation has already moved past the point where that information is useful. But somatic awareness is not only relevant in high-stakes physical situations. It is relevant every day, in every interaction, in every decision we make, because we are constantly, at every moment, navigating a world that is far more complex than the conscious mind can fully comprehend. We are navigating the subtle emotional landscapes of our relationships. We are navigating environments that carry histories we know nothing about. We are navigating the invisible dynamics of groups, organizations, and social structures that shape every interaction we have. And in all of this, the body is working. The body is sensing. The body is trying to hand us its findings. The only question is whether we have cultivated enough stillness, enough inner honesty, enough genuine self-awareness to receive those findings clearly and to trust them. I want to be precise about something here, because precision matters when we speak about these things. Not every feeling that arises in the body is a reliable signal from the deeper intelligence we have been discussing. Some feelings are the residue of old wounds. Some feelings are the product of fear, of conditioning, of beliefs that were formed in circumstances that no longer exist. A person who was repeatedly betrayed in childhood will feel unease in situations that carry even the faintest resemblance to those early experiences. Regardless of whether the current situation is actually threatening, a person who learned to associate certain types of people or environments with danger will feel that signal of danger firing, even when they are safe. This is not the body's deep intelligence speaking. This is the body's trauma memory speaking. And these two things, genuine perception and conditioned reaction, can feel remarkably similar from the inside. This is precisely why the cultivation of self-knowledge is not optional on this path. If you want to trust your body's intelligence, you must first become honest about your inner landscape. You must do the difficult work of understanding your own patterns, your own triggers, your own areas of conditioning and reactivity. Not so that you can eliminate them. They are part of you, part of your history, but so that you can see them clearly, so that when a feeling arises, you have the capacity to ask, is this arising from the present moment, from what is actually here right now, or is this arising from something in my past, from something I carry that is not about this situation at all? This discernment is not always easy, but it is always necessary. And the deeper your self-knowledge, the more reliable your perception becomes, because you can increasingly separate the signal from the noise. There is also something worth saying about the connection between the body's knowing and time. We speak about the feeling that something is about to happen, as though it belongs only to rare and dramatic moments, accidents, crises, major life changes. But this sensing is actually continuous. The body is always, at every moment, registering the direction in which things are moving. It is like the way a skilled sailor reads the wind. A beginner looks at the flag on the mast to see which way the wind is blowing after the fact. An experienced sailor feels the wind on their skin, notices the way the boat is sitting in the water, reads the quality of the light, and knows, before any instrument confirms it, what kind of weather is coming and how far away it is. The information was always available. What the experienced sailor has and the beginner lacks is years of cultivated attention that allows the body's intelligence to be received and understood. The same principle applies to our lives. The more present we become, not as a philosophical ideal, but as an actual daily practice, the more we notice that the body is always reading the situation, that beneath every interaction, beneath every decision, beneath every choice we are about to make, there is already a quality of knowing available, a sense of whether this is aligned or misaligned, whether this is moving toward life or away from it, whether something here deserves our attention or our caution. Most people override this intelligence dozens of times every single day, not out of malice, not even out of ignorance, but simply because they have never been taught to value it. But here is what I have seen again and again. In the lives of people who have chosen the path of genuine inner development, the moments of greatest regret, the decisions that caused the most damage, the relationships that ended in devastation, almost always, when those people look back honestly, they can identify the moment the body spoke, they can identify the tightening, the unease, the quiet resistance that arose before the choice was made, and they can also identify the moment they overrode it, the moment the thinking mind stepped in, with its reasons and its justifications, and rationalized its way past the body's warning. The body always knew. The knowing was always there. What was missing was the trust, the stillness, and the courage to honor what was being felt. I am not suggesting that we should make every decision based on feeling alone. I am not asking you to abandon reason or to act impulsively on every sensation that arises. I am suggesting something far more integrated than that. I am suggesting that the highest quality of human intelligence is not reason alone, nor feeling alone, but the capacity to hold both together, to allow the body's deep intelligence to inform the mind's deliberation, and to allow the mind's clarity to contextualize and make sense of what the body is offering. This is not a compromise between two competing systems. This is the realization that they were never meant to compete. They were meant to work together. And when they do, when the stillness is sufficient, when the self-knowledge is honest, when the body and the mind are in genuine communication, the quality of perception that emerges is extraordinary. This is what practitioners across centuries and traditions have pointed toward when they speak about wisdom. Not the accumulation of information, not the mastery of technique, but this integrated clarity, this capacity to receive reality as it actually is through every channel available and to respond to it with both precision and appropriate action. The body is not a lesser source of knowing, it is a different source of knowing. And in many situations, especially those that matter most, those that carry the highest stakes and the deepest consequences, it is the most reliable source we have. So what does this mean for the way we live? It means that the practice of coming home to the body is not a spiritual luxury for people with too much free time. It is a fundamental life skill. It is the development of one of our most important instruments of perception. It means that the moments of quiet you carve out in your day, whether through formal practice, through time in nature, through physical discipline, these are not idle moments. These are the moments in which you are calibrating your instrument, cleaning the lens through which you perceive reality, becoming capable of receiving what is actually here, rather than only what the busy mind has already decided is here. It means that when the feeling arises, that quiet, unmistakable sense that something is approaching, that something is already in motion, you do not dismiss it, you do not explain it away. You pause, you become still, you allow the feeling to clarify, you ask it what it knows, and you listen, not with the analytical mind that wants to immediately categorize and solve, but with the quality of open, receptive attention that allows what is being offered to become clear. This takes practice. It takes patience. It takes the willingness to be wrong sometimes, to discover that a feeling was a conditioned reaction rather than genuine perception, and to learn from that distinction without judgment. But over time, and this is what I have seen with great consistency in those who commit to this practice, the instrument becomes more and more reliable, the noise decreases, the signal becomes clearer, the moments of disconnection between what the body knows and what the mind acknowledges become rarer and shorter. And what begins to emerge is a way of moving through the world that is at once more precise and more effortless, A life in which you are genuinely informed by the whole of your intelligence, not just the part that can speak in sentences. The body has been speaking your entire life. In every moment of unease, you pushed past too quickly. In every moment of recognition you felt before you had words for it. In every quiet alarm that fired before the situation confirmed itself. In every inexplicable certainty that turned out in the end to be exactly right. The body was there. The intelligence was present. The knowing was available. The body has never stopped speaking. The only question that remains is, are you still enough to listen?